the legacy of a relentless visionary. Imagine a city of marble rising from the ruins of a fractured republic. A city not merely built by stone and mortar, but by the relentless ambition of one man. Augustus, the first emperor of Rome, forged an empire that stretched across continents and endured for centuries. But behind the polished facade of his reign lay a web of political intrigue, personal tragedy, and calculated power. What drove Augustus to dismantle the republic he once vowed to protect? How did he transform a city plagued by chaos into the heart of an empire? And at what cost did he achieve this legacy? Join us as we delve into the final chapter of Augustus' life, a story of ambition, sacrifice, and the ultimate question of whether power can ever truly be passed on without compromise. From his struggles with succession to his twilight reflections, this is a tale that reveals the man behind the marble mask, inviting you to witness the fragile balance between vision and mortality. Stay with us to uncover the triumphs and turmoil that defined not just a ruler, but an era. The rise of Augustus, from shadows to supreme power. The turning point. The crowd was restless. The forum buzzed with hushed conversations, whispers of unease rippling through the assembly. Rome had been thrust into chaos after the assassination of Julius Caesar, its streets no longer safe, and its Senate fractured into factions. Amid this turmoil, a young and unassuming figure emerged from the shadows of the political arena. Gaius Octavius, a man barely in his 20s, but destined to become the most powerful figure in Roman history. Octavius, soon to be known as Augustus, was not born into a role of obvious leadership. As Caesar's grandnephew, he was named in Caesar's will as his adopted son and heir, a move that would change his life forever. Yet this was no blessing. Rome was a boiling cauldron of treachery, ambition, and violence, and Octavius' survival would depend not on his lineage but on his wit, determination, and an uncanny ability to outmaneuver his enemies. The young heir's dilemma. As the dust settled after Caesar's assassination, Octavius faced an impossible choice: return to obscurity and safety or step forward to claim the dangerous mantle of leadership. The Republic was crumbling, and power was up for grabs. Octavius chose the latter, but his road to supremacy was far from straightforward. The first test of his resolve came in the form of Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general and an ambitious rival. Antony had seized control of Caesar's legacy, using his oratorical skills and military might to rally supporters. Octavius, in contrast, had no army, no wealth, and no significant allies, only his name and his audacity. History often portrays Octavius as calculating, but in those early days he was also remarkably bold. He courted Caesar's veteran soldiers with promises of loyalty and rewards, using his inheritance to fund their allegiance. Antony, initially dismissive of the young upstart, soon realized that Octavius was no ordinary politician.
A calculated alliance.
The political landscape of Rome was shifting rapidly, and Octavius knew he could not rise to power alone. He formed an uneasy alliance with Antony and Lepidus, creating the Second Triumvirate, a political pact that divided control of Rome among the three men. Together, they orchestrated a campaign of brutal proscriptions, targeting their enemies and consolidating power. This was a period of bloodshed and betrayal, but it also showcased Octavius' growing political acumen. While Antony reveled in military glory and Lepidus faded into irrelevance, Octavius focused on securing loyalty and laying the groundwork for his future dominance. His calculated moves during this time reveal a man who was not merely a product of circumstance but a master of it. Pivotal victory. The triumvirate's first major test came with the Battle of Philippi, where they faced the forces of Caesar's assassins, Brutus and Cassius. The stakes were nothing less than control of Rome itself. While Antony led the charge, Octavius played a supporting role, showing neither the courage nor the charisma of a seasoned general. And yet, the victory at Philippi cemented his position within the triumvirate. It was here that Octavius demonstrated his most critical skill, the ability to claim credit for success while deflecting blame for failure. He allowed Antony to bask in the glory of the battlefield while quietly consolidating his power in the shadows. the rift with Antony. As Rome's territories expanded, so did the ambitions of its rulers. The alliance between Octavius and Antony began to fray, particularly as Antony's relationship with Cleopatra deepened. For Octavius, this was an opportunity. He skillfully painted Antony as a traitor to Rome, a man seduced by the exotic allure of Egypt and the ambitions of its queen. Through propaganda and political maneuvering, Octavius turned public opinion against Antony. He positioned himself as the savior of Roman values, a defender of tradition in an era of decadence. It was a masterstroke of political theater, one that would lead to the decisive confrontation at the Battle of Actium. The making of a leader. Octavius' rise to power was not the result of chance or inherited privilege, but a testament to his extraordinary political instincts. Unlike his rivals, he understood that power in Rome was not merely a matter of military might but of perception. He manipulated public sentiment, forged strategic alliances, and outlasted his enemies through sheer persistence. Historians often debate whether Octavius was a visionary or an opportunist. Perhaps he was both. What is undeniable is that he saw Rome not as it was but as it could be, a unified empire under a single guiding hand. His early struggles and triumphs laid the foundation for what would become the Roman Empire, a legacy that endures to this day. The fall of the triumvirate: power, betrayal, and the road to empire. The shadow of Cleopatra. It was a sweltering evening in Alexandria. The golden light of dusk reflected off the Nile, its waters carrying whispers of unrest. Inside her lavish palace, Cleopatra lounged beside Mark Antony, their fates intertwined by love and ambition. Yet, far from the splendor of Egypt, a storm brewed in Rome. Octavius had cast his net, a trap so intricate that neither Antony nor Cleopatra could escape. In Rome, Octavius paced his study, a faint smirk playing on his lips. News from Egypt was both a weapon and an opportunity. Cleopatra's influence over Antony had reached scandalous proportions, and Octavius intended to exploit it to the fullest. The narrative he spun would change the course of history. A proud Roman general, bewitched by a foreign queen, betraying his homeland. This opening sets the stage for the political and emotional drama to come, drawing viewers into a world of betrayal, propaganda, and the struggle for supremacy. The disintegration of the triumvirate. By 36 BCE, cracks in the second triumvirate had become irreparable. Lepidus, the weakest link, had been sidelined by Octavius after an ill-fated military campaign in Sicily. With Lepidus out of the picture, the once powerful triumvirate was now a tense rivalry between two men, Octavius and Antony. Antony, stationed in the east, was consumed by his relationship with Cleopatra. Their union was more than personal. It was political. Cleopatra provided Antony with the resources and support he needed to challenge Octavius, but their alliance also gave Octavius a potent weapon. Octavius launched a propaganda campaign, portraying Antony as a traitor to Rome. He claimed that Antony had abandoned his Roman wife, Octavia, Octavius' own sister, in favor of the seductive queen of the East. The Senate, swayed by Octavius' rhetoric, declared war, not on Antony, but on Cleopatra. This subtle distinction was a masterstroke, allowing Octavius to frame the conflict as a defense of Roman honor rather than a civil war. A defining moment. The climactic confrontation between Octavius and Antony came at the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE. The stage was set for a naval battle that would determine the fate of the Roman world. Antony's forces were vast but poorly coordinated, while Octavius, with his trusted general Agrippa, commanded a disciplined and strategically superior fleet. The battle was a disaster for Antony and Cleopatra. Octavius' forces, using innovative naval tactics, encircled and overwhelmed their opponents. Cleopatra, sensing the tide turning against them, fled the battlefield with her fleet. Antony, torn between his duty as a commander and his love for Cleopatra, chose to follow her, abandoning his troops. This moment of weakness sealed Antony's fate. His forces, demoralized and leaderless, surrendered to Octavius, The Battle of Actium was not merely a military victory. It was the culmination of years of strategic planning and psychological warfare by Octavius. The death of Antony and Cleopatra. In the aftermath of Actium, Antony and Cleopatra retreated to Alexandria, their empire crumbling around them. Octavius pursued them relentlessly, determined to eliminate any threat to his supremacy. Antony, facing inevitable defeat, chose to end his life. According to historical accounts, he fell on his sword, a tragic end for a man who had once been one of Rome's greatest generals. Cleopatra, refusing to be paraded through Rome as a captive, took her own life shortly afterward, famously using an ASP to deliver the fatal bite. Octavius, ever pragmatic, ensured their deaths were spun to his advantage. He portrayed Antony as a man undone by passion and Cleopatra as a cunning seductress, reinforcing his image as the savior of Rome. Octavius' consolidation of power. With Antony and Cleopatra gone, Octavius faced little opposition. He returned to Rome as a hero, the man who had avenged Caesar and restored order to the Republic. But Octavius had no intention of reviving the old Republic. Instead, he began to reshape Rome into an empire with himself at its helm. In 27 BCE, Octavius formally relinquished his extraordinary powers to the Senate, a move that was more symbolic than genuine. The Senate, in turn, granted him the title of Augustus, meaning the revered one. This marked the beginning of the Roman Empire, with Augustus as its first emperor. Augustus' reign, the birth of the Roman Empire and the cost of stability. A city in transition. The year was 27 BCE, in the heart of Rome, where centuries of republican ideals had once shaped governance. A profound transformation was underway. Streets buzzed with rumors of Octavian's bold moves. The young man who had avenged Julius Caesar and crushed Rome's enemies now stood at a crossroads. Would he relinquish his powers and restore the Republic, or was a new era dawning? Inside the Senate chambers, Octavian, now known as Augustus, stood tall. The room was heavy with tension, the senators' gazes flickering between admiration and unease. Augustus' voice, calm and measured, filled the room as he formally offered to relinquish his extraordinary powers, claiming a desire to restore republican traditions. Yet, this gesture was met with fervent opposition. The senators, whether out of fear or admiration, begged him to stay. It was a masterful performance, one that solidified Augustus as Rome's unchallenged leader. This opening sets a tone of intrigue, highlighting the delicate balance between manipulation and genuine leadership, immediately captivating the audience. A vision of stability. As the first emperor, Augustus embarked on an ambitious program to reshape Rome. His vision extended far beyond political consolidation. He sought to rebuild the very foundation of Roman society. Administrative reforms. Augustus divided the provinces into two categories, those governed by the Senate and those under his direct control. This allowed him to maintain a firm grip on the empire's wealthiest and most volatile regions, ensuring stability. Military reforms. Recognizing the danger of independent armies, Augustus professionalized the Roman military. Soldiers were now paid directly by the state, with loyalty firmly tied to their emperor. The establishment of a standing army and the Praetorian Guard ensured Augustus' security and maintained peace across the empire. Economic stability. Augustus introduced a new taxation system, reducing corruption and ensuring a steady flow of revenue. His reforms revitalized trade and agriculture, fostering an era of prosperity that would become the hallmark of his reign. Building the myth of Augustus. Augustus understood the power of narrative. Through art, literature, and architecture, he crafted a public image that transcended politics. Architecture and urban development. Augustus famously claimed to have found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble. He commissioned grand structures like the Forum of Augustus and the Era Pacis, symbols of Roman greatness and the Pax Romana. Literary patronage. Poets like Virgil, Horace, and Ovid were enlisted to glorify Augustus' achievements. Virgil's Aeneid, for instance, linked Augustus' lineage to the Trojan hero Aeneas, reinforcing the divine legitimacy of his rule. The religious reforms. Augustus revitalized traditional Roman religion, presenting himself as a pious leader blessed by the gods. The title Pontifex Maximus further cemented his role as the spiritual as well as political leader of Rome. This section delves into Augustus' strategic use of culture and religion to solidify his power, blending historical facts with speculative insights into his motivations. Rebellions and political intrigue. Despite his successes, Augustus' reign was not without challenges. Revolts in the provinces, political conspiracies, and personal tragedies tested his resilience. The provincial rebellions. In regions like Gaul and Judea, resistance to Roman rule simmered. Augustus deployed his legions with precision, quelling uprisings while offering reforms to appease local populations. The Marcellus dilemma. Augustus' choice of heir became a source of tension. His initial successor, Marcellus, died young, sparking rumors of foul play and fueling intrigue within the imperial court. The deaths of his grandsons Gaius and Lucius further complicated succession plans, forcing Augustus to turn to his stepson, Tiberius. This portion of the narrative highlights the fragility of Augustus' power, contrasting his public image with the private struggles that defined his reign. An era of peace or a veil of control. The Pax Romana, or Roman peace, is often celebrated as Augustus' greatest achievement. For over 2 centuries, the empire enjoyed relative stability and prosperity. But this peace came at a cost. Economic prosperity. Trade flourished across the empire, connecting distant provinces through a network of roads and sea routes. Rome became a cosmopolitan hub, its markets filled with goods from Africa, Asia, and Europe. Social control. Augustus implemented strict moral laws, promoting traditional family values while punishing adultery and other behaviors deemed immoral. Critics argue that these laws were less about morality and more about consolidating his authority. Cultural assimilation. The Pax Romana also saw the spread of Roman culture, often at the expense of local traditions. Augustus' policies, while unifying, sparked resentment among those who felt their identities were being erased. Through a mix of historical detail and analytical commentary, this section invites viewers to consider the dual nature of Augustus' legacy. The cost of empire. Behind the veneer of power, Augustus endured personal sacrifices that shaped his character and decisions. Family struggles. Augustus' marriage to Livia was marked by political calculation rather than love. While Livia became one of his closest advisors, their relationship was strained by the pressures of ruling an empire. Health issues. Historical records suggest that Augustus suffered from various health problems, including chronic illnesses that plagued him throughout his life. Despite this, he maintained a rigorous schedule, driven by an unwavering sense of duty. Isolation. As the most powerful man in the world, Augustus often found himself isolated. Trust was a rare commodity, and betrayal a constant threat. This intimate portrayal adds depth to Augustus' character, making him relatable to modern audiences. The legacy of Augustus. As Augustus neared the end of his life, he reflected on his achievements. His final words, according to some accounts, were, "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble." Yet, his true legacy was far greater than any structure.
Augustus had transformed Rome.
Not merely through conquest or reform, but through vision and perseverance. He had laid the foundation for an empire that would endure for centuries, shaping the course of Western civilization. But his reign also marked the end of the Republic, a loss that would haunt Rome in the centuries to come. The sunset of Augustus, the final years and the aftermath of his reign. A shadow over the eternal city. The scene opens with a panoramic view of Rome at dawn. The city gleams under Augustus' marble-clad vision, bustling with the life of an empire at its peak. Yet, within the walls of the imperial palace on the Palatine Hill, a man who had ruled for over 4 decades wrestles with his mortality. Augustus, now in his 70s, reflects on the empire he built, his personal sacrifices, and the precarious future of Rome after his death. This evocative opening sets the stage for a dramatic recounting of Augustus' final years, immediately drawing the audience into the tension of a world poised on the brink of change. Augustus struggles with succession. As Augustus aged, his thoughts increasingly turned to securing the future of Rome. His succession plans, however, were marred by tragedy and political intrigue. A string of tragedies. Augustus had originally hoped to pass his power to his nephew and son-in-law, Marcellus, but Marcellus died young. His grandsons Gaius and Lucius, groomed as heirs, also met untimely deaths. These losses not only devastated Augustus personally but left a vacuum at the heart of his plans for Rome's continuity. The reluctant heir. Eventually, Augustus turned to Tiberius, his stepson from his wife Livia's previous marriage. Tiberius, a competent but reluctant leader, was far from Augustus' ideal successor. Tensions between Augustus and Tiberius simmered, with Augustus doubting Tiberius' ability to embody his vision for Rome. Livia's influence. Livia, Augustus' formidable wife, played a crucial role in shaping the line of succession. Some historians suggest that her ambitions for her son Tiberius might have influenced the untimely deaths of Augustus' preferred heirs. While these claims remain speculative, they add a layer of intrigue to Augustus' final years, building an empire beyond Rome. While succession dominated the political landscape in Rome, Augustus' impact on the provinces continued to shape the empire's future. The integration of cultures. Augustus fostered a policy of cultural assimilation, blending Roman customs with local traditions. In places like Gaul, Egypt, and the eastern provinces, this approach helped maintain stability while creating a sense of shared identity. Infrastructure projects. Roads, aqueducts, and cities built under Augustus' reign connected the empire like never before. The Via Appia, extended to the far reaches of the empire, symbolized the connectivity and unity Augustus envisioned. The question of control. However, the expansion of Roman influence came at a cost. In provinces like Judea and Germania, resentment against Roman rule simmered beneath the surface. Revolts during and after Augustus' reign would test the limits of his legacy. This section balances Augustus' achievements with the underlying challenges of managing a vast and diverse empire. Balancing power and humanity. In his twilight years, Augustus faced not only political and administrative challenges, but also the weight of his own humanity. Personal reflections. Historical records suggest that Augustus spent his final years reflecting on his reign. He famously remarked, "Have I played my part well? Then applaud as I exit." This statement, recorded by the historian Suetonius, reflects Augustus' theatrical understanding of power and his awareness of his role in shaping history. Health decline. Augustus' health deteriorated steadily in his final years. Despite this, he remained actively involved in governing, determined to leave Rome in the best possible state. His resilience in the face of illness underscored his dedication to his vision for the empire. Reconciliation with Tiberius. As his death approached, Augustus sought to reconcile with Tiberius, ensuring a smooth transition of power. Their relationship, marked by years of tension, softened in these final moments, emphasizing Augustus' pragmatism and foresight. The end of an era. On August 19th, 14 CE, Augustus passed away in Nola, a small town in southern Italy. His death marked the end of an era that had defined Rome's transformation from republic to empire. Public mourning. News of Augustus' death plunged Rome into mourning. His body was transported to the city in a grand funeral procession, symbolizing the profound impact of his reign. The Senate declared him a god, further solidifying his legacy as the founder of the Roman Empire. The smooth transition. Despite fears of chaos, the transition of power to Tiberius was relatively smooth, a testament to Augustus' meticulous planning. However, Tiberius' reign would soon reveal the challenges of living up to Augustus' legacy.
Evaluating Augustus' legacy.
The story concludes with a reflective analysis of Augustus' reign, inviting viewers to consider the complexities of his impact. A visionary leader, Augustus' achievements in governance, military strategy, and cultural integration laid the foundation for the Roman Empire's longevity. His reign ushered in the Pax Romana, a period of relative peace and prosperity that lasted for over 2 centuries. At the cost of stability, however, this stability came at a cost. Augustus' consolidation of power marked the end of the Republic, replacing democratic ideals with autocratic rule. The moral laws he imposed, while promoting traditional values, also restricted personal freedoms. A divided legacy. Historians continue to debate Augustus' legacy. Was he a benevolent ruler who saved Rome from chaos, or a cunning autocrat who destroyed the Republic?